Hi, welcome to the channel. Today I want to show you a method for creating harmonically correct samples for use in Granular. It's an idea I had for creating these samples. You've got an example playing here, a sine wave. So we'll just have a quick listen and then I'll show you how you can set up Tonverk to make these samples yourself. So what do I actually mean by harmonically correct? Well, with granular synthesis, you can drop in any sample, really, can't you? You can drop in the wind, you can drop in, I don't know, a train passing by, anything you like. But what I tried to do was create a method on Tonverk where I could create samples where everything was in a particular key or a particular scale. So the sample was in that scale or was made up of tones that are in a scale. So I'll show you what I mean by that now. We'll just go through very quickly how I set this up. So the first thing we need to do is, this is a new project, we need to drop our tempo all the way down to 40 here. Drop this down to 40. The reason being then that if we operate at a tempo of 40 BPM, 1 bar equates to about 6 seconds, exactly 6 seconds I believe. So that means we can get a 6-second sample out of a 1 bar. So the next thing we need to do then is to find some kind of source. Well, let's drop in here the Wavefinder, and we'll use here as a sample. Let's have a look. We'll just use some simple, I'll recreate what I had before, which was this HS sine here. So we'll use this sample here and come out of there. Okay, so this is our sample playing now. I don't need to do any of the animation or anything like that. The only thing I changed, I believe, was the position. I just put it on the very end here to get a higher pitch. Okay, so what now do we need to do? Well, let's go back to our track here, and we need to set the track up a little bit. First thing we need to do is put a series of notes here. So we go into the record, and we're just going to drop here a series of notes. Now, perhaps actually what we could do first, before we do this, I could go into chord. I could set this up here. I don't have to have a root note C. I could put this on, let's have a look. Let's go to chromatic. We'll stay chromatic, we'll stay in C. And so we'll set up the keyboard like that. We could fix this if we want. We could snap this so it's always in the right key. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll set it up in this scale. You could choose a scale of your choice. And let's come out of chord now. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so now what we want to do is go in here and we want to just put a series of random notes in. You can perhaps we'll take that one out first. We'll drop this just down 1 octave here, and we'll do that again. Let's go in here. We'll just choose a series of random notes. Nothing more. Put these on all 16. So okay, let's just have a look at the trig we've got there. I believe it should be a quarter note. Okay, so that's okay, that's fine, that's all set up. Now what we can do is come out of here again. We can go to our amp, and we need to just set this a little bit. I set this to an attack of 15. About 15, that'll do. And I set the release to about 50. Okay, now, so the amp set up. Last thing we need to do is set up our ARP here. So we want to switch the ARP onto random mode. We want to change this to 1/64th here. The range we want to set at 2. And the length we will just we'll just leave that as it is for a second. Right, so now when we play this back, we've got this strange sequence playing. What we want to do now is actually record into this sequence some length changes. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So we'll record, then clear, and we'll just put some length changes. Yeah. Till it sounds right. Anything you like. Okay, stop that. Now we have these length changes on each. Let's just come out the ARP. We have a length change on each of these now. Next thing we want to do is repeat this, but use the volume here. So we're on amp. We want to randomize the volume a little bit. So we'll just do not too far off of 100, just around about 190, something like that. Just twiddle around until get something you like. Okay, so now we have both variation in the length of each note and also in the velocity of each note. And that's it. We've set it up now. What do? Next thing we do, we go into our recorder. Okay, so now in our recorder, we want to set this to track 1. That's our track here. We want to arm it, and we want to change here the record length. We want to change this to 1 bar. So that gives us that exactly that 6 seconds I mentioned before. Okay, so now we can press play and capture that sample. Okay, we turn that off. Now we're going to have to, we don't want to normalize this. One thing we don't want to do, because we've made all those variations in the velocity, so we don't want to normalize. Okay, so the next thing we can do is we can save this in. We'll yes, save, clear, let's give it a name. What do we got? We'll just call it test. Place that, I have that one. We'll assign this now to track 2. Okay, so we now have that on track 2. So if we go to track 2 now, we can put a machine on here. Let's have a look. We'll have a look. We'll get our Granular on 2, and we can assign this sample here, which should be there, yes. And now we have this sample in here. Now we can mess around with our various settings, so we can go, let's see what mode we're in here. We can change the direction to 50-50, so we go in both directions. We'll keep it on 4 grains at the moment. We can adjust our envelope here for each individual grain if we want. We'll leave it like that. We'll go to oscillator mode, I think. And then we can just set this up. So we have the size here. We can change our octaves. We can do the spread. Now I explained a lot of this in a previous video, Granular. If you've not seen that, I'll leave a link below and a card at the top. You can have a look at that, how Granular works. I don't really want to go into it too much today. I just wanted to demonstrate how we can now create these very nice, we can go smaller. Change octaves. I say, it's quite a simple method, but it allows you to create. Let's shrink that down. Allows you to create these very nice, harmonically correct samples here. Not getting anything out of pitch. Let's bunch them up. Now, this is quite a simple method for creating these kind of samples. I've created a more sophisticated method, which is a little bit impossible to demonstrate, but I've put a big bunch of samples up on my Patreon if you're interested. I'll also put some up, a bunch free, and the rest of them will be available for supporters of this channel. So they'll be up there, and they use a much more sophisticated method. They use things like FM, PPG, style waves, etc. But this was just a simple demo to show you a method that you could use. I've used that simple sine wave here. You could choose any sample you like, that's or any synth if you like. It has to be in pitch though. That's the only thing. You need something that's in pitch. I say, set up the chord, set this up how you want. You don't have to stay in C. You can change anything you like. It's just the idea, really. Okay, I hope this has been useful to somebody, anybody, and see you in the next video. Take care.